The views expressed on this broadcast of Step by Step Towards Emotional Sobriety with Dr. Alan Berger do not necessarily reflect those of Take 12 Radio, KHLT Recovery Broadcasting, or our affiliates. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. And now, here's your host, Dr. Alan Berger, and the Monty'man.
Well, greetings, friends and recovery family, all of those of you who are in recovery, those of you who are advocates of, and perhaps some of you who should be, welcome to another fine episode, if I do say so myself, with Dr. Alan Berger on Step by Step Towards Emotional Sobriety. Very special show this week. Dr. Berger, I almost wanted to speed up your music a little bit because I'm so pumped. I've got this energy that I've just kind of got through the internet airwaves when looking at our special guest's website and some of his radio shows. Folks, this is going to be a lot of fun. But before we introduce our guest, Dr. Berger, how the heck are you?
Well, I'm great, Monty. And just like you, I'm very, very excited to have Zoe Williams joining us tonight. And I think it's going to be a very, very special show. And I'm certain that you, the listeners, are going to get an awful lot from the interaction we're going to have with Zoe tonight. He brings a lot to the table. Can you tell everybody a little bit about Zoe?
Yes, I sure will. Well, listen, Zoe Williams has done a masterful job of decoding the complexities of the modern-day relationship. A student of urban alternative culture, Generation X, and world religions, Williams has turned his life experiences and knowledge into a non-nonsense empowerment movement. The Zoe What Morning Show with Zoe Williams takes the best of your traditional morning show, adds a little spice with deeper topics along with outrageous comedy. The show itself is a social experiment. Take in Living Color, Bill Maher's Politically Incorrect, throw in Dr. Oz and a little Oprah, and there you have it. The Zoe What Morning Show, the talk show that listens. How's that? So did I do okay?
I think you did a pretty good job.
Okay. Well, welcome to Take 12 Radio and Step by Step Towards Emotional Sobriety with Dr. Berger and myself. It's an honor and a privilege to have you on, man.
Man, the pleasure is absolutely mine. I appreciate it.
How long you been doing this thing?
I've been doing radio now for about, I think I started in 2006. My first movement was with Jamie Foxx on his Sirius XM satellite network, the Foxhole. And basically after about, I would say after about 4 weeks of getting my own show over there, it became the number one rated show on his network for the next 4.5 years.
Yeah, and I like what your website says. It's the best example of can't miss radio. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're not afraid. We're not afraid to talk about anything, you know.
Right. I noticed
Very
that.
candid.
Well, we have a lot in common because my listeners know that I'm extremely opinionated. In fact, one of the disclaimers / introductions to one of the shows, I think it's the Sober Portland radio show, it says, and now here's that overly opinionated 12-stepologist, the Monty'man. So we're not afraid to talk about hard issues here either. So I'm so glad that you're with us. Dr. Berger, where are we going this week with Zoe and yourself?
Well, listen, our show is all about emotional sobriety. And emotional sobriety has everything in the world to do with relationships. And I think it would be great to talk with you, Zoe, about, how you look at relationships, the work you've been doing, and, I'm just impressed with the knowledge and the perspectives that you bring on these issues. And what we're talking about is is the difficulty that most people have in a relationship about making their partner too important. I mean,
Right.
that's really the heart and soul of this emotional sobriety stuff. So anything around this whole issue about relationships and how you see, what people need to do to make them work and stuff like that, I think that would be a great show for us tonight.
Oh, that's excellent. My perspective on relationships is pretty straightforward in terms of how I view it. I just say, listen, when you're in a relationship, you are a student in the University of You. So all of the stuff that comes back in the form, we can call it feedback, we can call it reflection, and at the end of the day, usually that comes back in some form of conflict or some form of, some type of experience. I say that is your curriculum. And everything that comes back to you is an opportunity for you to learn more about yourself. Carl Jung put it beautifully, in my opinion, when he talked about the subconscious and how it is trying to come up and express itself through relationships. And sometimes it comes out as conflict. It's just trying to resolve itself. I see that as curriculum. So for me, relationship is a highly reflective classroom where all of the reflections that come back to you is the curriculum for you. The University of You is how I look at it.
Yeah, I like that. That's great.
That's great.
One of the things we've been talking a lot with our listeners about in this show, Zoe, is that, if I'm upset in a relationship, I need to look at what's going on with me, because there's something wrong with me when I'm disturbed. And it's just what you're saying, man. That's the university, and I like how you put it, man. That's our curriculum. When there's trouble, when we're having struggle, there's an opportunity for us to learn something about, the way I say it, is who we're not, right?
Right,
and
right.
who we need to become, because it's relationships are people growers. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about them.
Let me ask you, Zoe. This statement was made earlier. I think Dr. Berger may have said it. Alluding to the fact that we have a tendency to make everything about the other person, good and bad. I mean, we've heard it. It's in our music. It's in our books. It's in some of our philosophies that have been teaching us that everything is about the other person. You need to make sure that you put them first in everything, and anything contrary to that tends to sound selfish. But I think we've kind of missed the boat a little bit, because if we're not taking care of ourselves and we can't love ourselves, how in the heck are we going to love somebody else?
Absolutely. And far too often, it has been my observation that what happens is we'll ask a person to come into our lives, not to date us, but to date our projections, perceptions, and ideas and expectations. So I tell people all the time, don't date your ideas. Because what you're going to do is you're going to take a sentient being and try to mold them and edit them and push them into the box or template that you created when they weren't there.
Right.
They weren't there when you created that. And I always tell people, don't date your ideas and don't date your coping mechanisms. Right? So what happens is sometimes relationships hurt.
Mm-hmm.
When they hurt us, well, that trauma, like take for instance, if you tear your ACL in your knee, well, that trauma will cause that area to swell.
Right.
Right. That swelling is a coping mechanism, right?
Yeah, you
so
bet.
a lot of us are dating the swelling from a past hurt, and we're projecting this coping mechanism out into the universe, hoping that someone will date that. Well, you have to recognize that coping mechanism isn't even you. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're in a car accident, your body knows, hey, let me black this person out because I don't want them to remember what's about to happen. They're about to hit a bus head on. Let me black you out. Then you wake up in the hospital if you happen to survive. You go, well, what happened? Well, you were in a car accident. That's the coping mechanism to protect you from the memory of that kind of trauma. Well, in relationship, it's the same way. We take that trauma and the coping mechanism that comes from the trauma, and we say, well, date this. And what we ultimately do is protect a wound and build a wall around it and put a moat around it, and we find ourselves keeping that wound alive. I don't want to date your wound. I want to date your recovery. But you can't date the recovery until you tear down the walls of protection. Sometimes you got to let a little hurt in so you can seed that soil and build a different type of experience. But most people don't want to feel the pain. They want to move away from the pain, you know?
Yeah, right. Is this one of the reasons why we hear people say sometimes maybe after 30 days of marriage or maybe even a couple of years, they make this statement, I don't get it. You're not the person I married.
Right. Well, most people have married their expectations.
Yeah.
That it's not the real person.
Right.
Yeah,
right. And the poor guy or gal's like, what did I do? I haven't changed. Well, maybe you've just gotten to know the person a little better.
Yeah. There's a sociological construct out there called enhancement bias. And typically, the people on the outside of your relationship looking in have a better bead on the success of that relationship than the people on the inside, especially for early relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because the two people in the relationship have a vested interest in the relationship succeeding. So they tend to enhance the good qualities in their partner and downplay the negative qualities. And this lasts anywhere from 18 months to 3 years or something like that. And then they start to see the person for who they really are. Now, the people who have a better view of it are the people who don't have a vested interest, and that could be family and friends.
Right.
They're telling you, this person isn't right for you. But because you have a vested interest in seeing it work, you ignore the signs that are there.
Well, let me ask you this. My mother, bless her heart, rest her soul, when the day she met my wife, this, of course, was a couple of years before we'd actually gotten married, but she was my fiance. She looked her straight in the eye and she said, Monty is the most selfish person you'll ever meet.
Mm.
Now, that seemed like kind of a rude thing to say, but I look back over the years and there was a lot of truth to that, truth be known, because I'm all I think about all day long, right? And perhaps that was a blessing and not a curse.
Wow. I think it probably was a blessing, especially if your woman took heed to the words and was able to adjust and shift her expectations of you. The studies out there are very clear, and they make it known. The more flexible the beliefs are of the two people that are together, the more successful the relationship tends to be.
That's true.
Because any situation can be adjusted to. The more rigid and the more concretized your belief system are, the more problematic they can become because they can't adjust and shift in times where you need to adjust and shift. And again, when you're dating a concept, your chances are you're going to be let down at some point because life has twists and turns. So.
Yeah. do you think?
It's such a great idea, though. This thing about dating a concept, because one of the things that I see a lot of people doing, Zoe, and I think most of us do, is that very early on in life that we start to try to be a concept of who we think that we need to be. So then, so even before that happens in a relationship, I think that we start to lay that trip on ourselves. And now I think, instead of actualizing my true self, my actual self, and use that growth force to become who I am, it gets hijacked, and I try to actualize this idea or this ideal or this concept. And so I'm not even being myself. So if I'm not being myself, how are we going to get to that point? And I like you, and I like what you're saying. I think after a while, after you start to really be in a relationship for a period of time, that's when the work really starts, because now it comes down to who am I really and who are we really, and can we somehow find a way to meet each other and feel good about it?
Well, yeah, this is why I believe, and just because I believe it doesn't mean it's true, by the way, but this is why I believe that love, and I mean the real love, the deep, unconditional love, is difficult to achieve because the idea is a condition in and of itself.
Wow.
State.
Yeah, right on.
You see? So I believe that it's difficult to get to unconditional love when you yourself are a living condition, a living concept, an ego, an id,
right,
an identity. Wherever there's an identity, there's a desire to defend it, to defend its borders.
Yeah, you bet.
So automatically you're built for conflict and confrontation.
That's really interesting.
That's true, and then you talk about the relationship is kind of grinding, in such a way is to give you an opportunity to really get rid of that and to really discover, who you are.
Right.
And that's when that relationship becomes a spiritual covenant.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
I love that.
A moment ago that was just huge. You said the person is the idea, and the person is the concept, and it's something they've been working on and tailoring and manicuring, and they don't recognize that that's not them. They think they're the ideal of themselves, and the problem with that is it's like a shadow, trying to attract another shadow. We would get these two shadows together to meet, and the real people don't actually interface until conflict manifests.
Such a great image, man. That's such a powerful image. Really, yeah.
What can folks do? I mean, I'm sitting here looking at. I wrote it down. Are you dating a concept? Are you engaged to a concept? Are you interested in somebody because of your concept of who you want them to be? What can someone do to help others not do that to them? I mean, is there something we can do?
Before you go there, Monty, let's talk about that a little bit. Because I think one way, our listeners might be wondering, well, how do I know if that's what's going on or not?
Sure, there you go.
So I diagnose this for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And, what comes to mind is that if you have a lot of rules about how the other person should be, then you are really dating a concept, not the person.
Yes.
See, right? Don't you think that's true? So, I mean, the more rules I have, the more it means that you have to be this way in order for me to be okay.
Right.
See, that becomes the heart of this problem with emotional sobriety. When my well-being depends upon your adherence to my rules, I'm in trouble.
Yes, absolutely.
Guys, let me play devil's advocate with this for a minute. Is there really anything wrong, though, with having some stipulations or guidelines, with your prospective dating partner? I mean, there are certain things I know that I was looking for in a mate. And I know that today some of them were unreasonable expectations, and I've learned over the years that sometimes any expectation is unreasonable. But there were certain attributes I was looking for. how do we tell which of those are unhealthy and which ones are perfectly fine?
If the expectation is born out of a trauma on your end, it's unrealistic for the other person to live up to it.
Ah, very good.
And like I said, just because I believe this doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah.
But I think to have it's almost like asking someone to save you from a reoccurring nightmare.
Mm.
The relationship is designed for you to graduate after studying and accepting and studying the curriculum that you get back in the feedback from it. Now, if you're just trying to protect yourself and saying, okay, I don't want to deal with this feedback and I need someone to kind of, enable me, now you're misusing the actual purpose and design of relationship. It is designed to resolve the issue, not kind of self-medicate and maintain your current level of health. You know how medicine works,
Right.
We're not trying to heal you. We're actually trying to just maintain and stabilize you. So a lot of people are in a relationship or use relationship to maintain and stabilize their current coping mechanism from some previous trauma. And I just love the term emotional sobriety. A lot of people are exactly the way Beyonce said it. They're drunk. They're not sober. They're emotionally inebriated.
Sure.
It's very difficult for you to see clearly and create useful and beneficial expectations for your partner when you're always trying to hide and mask a pain or a trauma that you went through before. Relationship doesn't save you from that. Relationship exposes that to you for you to deal with it. And if you don't deal with it, you just live with it. And that's a hard life to live.
Yeah.
Just living.
Maybe another way to say it is if you don't deal with it, you just suffer it. I mean, that's the bottom line, man. You just suffer it, and there's a ton of sober suffering going on.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's
sober
like
suffering. Wow.
We talk about
people don't show up for the lesson.
Right, right. And we talk about
they don't know how to unpack that curriculum.
We talk about how a person can die an alcoholic death and never have a drink.
Wow. Yeah,
no, it's a serious problem. I just want to kind of build on what you just said, Zoe, because for me it even goes a step farther with this, because I think you're right on. And I think when those rules are born out of trauma, that they really become, in a person's mind, musts that have to happen in the relationship for that person to be okay. Right. That person now feels like this is the way it has to be for me to feel safe, for me to feel good. And when their safety is dependent on regulating other people, they're never going to be safe.
Exactly. No, never.
It's just not going to happen. And then I take that even a step further. See, the work that I've done, like with Dr. Kempler, who is really one of the masters in family therapy, he had this great line that says, in order to make room for people in a relationship, they got to get rid of the rules. Because when there's rules, then there's no room for the people.
Right.
And then he went on to further say, is it's okay to have any rule you want for yourself and for what you expect of yourself in terms of the relationship and how you need to behave. But the problem comes when I lay my rules on you,
right,
and then expect that you should honor them.
Right. I mean, that is amazing. That is amazing. People don't understand that if you walk into it with the concept of, these are my deal breakers, you're automatically telling the other person that you are inflexible in certain areas.
Right.
And you're trying to control something, and you're not trying to have a relationship with them. Once again, you're trying to control that other person to live up to your concept of what you think needs to happen.
And what do people do? They go along with it. They become what that other person wants them to be, even though it's not them, and then it shows up later on in the relationship, and it's devastating.
Well, that's what Zoe was saying, is when my concept falls in love with your concept, and then we've got two concepts, right?
Right.
Having intercourse, we got a real problem on our hands.
Right.
Yeah. Because another way to see the concept or the stereotype, you can see it also, or you can term it as the mask. The concept or the stereotype is a mask. It's not the person.
Yeah.
It's a template.
Mm-hmm.
And like you have cultural stereotypes. My wife is supposed to have sex with me because she's my wife. She's supposed to have sex with me anytime I want her to, right? Okay? There's husband concepts or stereotypes. My husband is the tough guy. So, somebody is breaking into the house,
he's got to be the provider.
He's got to be the protector, right? Well, what if, these are the concepts that really put us in a bad state.
Yeah.
Guys, we got to take a short break. So hang on there with me.
Let's take that break, and then we're going to come back, Monty, and then we'll focus on that question you have: is, well, what do you do with this stuff, and how do you use these ideas to be able to create the kind of connection that you really would love to have in your life?
Absolutely.
Zoe's website is IamZoeWilliams.com. Is that correct, Zoe?
Yes.
Okay, folks, you need to go check it out. You really, really do. We're going to have a link here on this page, and it'll be on all our social networking sites as well. IamZoeWilliams.com. Don't go away. More with our guests when we come back.
Hey, check it out. You can now access all of our shows from a variety of podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, Podomatic, and Player FM. Simply search for Take 12 Recovery Radio, and you'll be tuned into the best in recovery broadcast journalism. Also available at take12radio.com.
Hey guys, this is Richie Supa, and you are listening to Take12Radio.com, recovery talk and positive music.
All right, and we have returned. Listen, the mission of Zoe Williams is simple. Number one, to improve relationships within the urban alternative demographic by increasing effective communications. Number two, to provide audiences with truly original content that inspires, educates, and entertains. And number three, to facilitate an initiative and an unprecedented engagement between the information seeker and the news bearer. Zoe Williams is our special guest during this show of Step by Step Towards Emotional Sobriety. His website is IamZoeWilliams.com. That's Z-O. And welcome back, everybody. Okay. So my question was, when we know this and have this information, let's say I'm a single guy or single gal, and I am ready to start dating. I have no idea who I'm going to date. I'm just going to be available. Is there some things that I can do to help prevent other people doing or putting expectations on me? What can I do? How can I participate in the solution?
I think, and I think is when you're dating, to know that you're comfortable in your own skin, to accept yourself 100%, to be in a space where you know what the flaws are,
right?
You know what your strengths are, and then again, you can't know all of your flaws because they reveal themselves through relationship and over time.
Yeah.
But to have a nice grasp of who you are and be in a space where you're not projecting what I call negative earmarks. Like there are certain things that stand out in your character like a lighthouse. And they have a gravitational pull, especially when you're unaware of them. You will magnetize a person that, in my opinion, is designed to trigger your ability to acknowledge what you haven't acknowledged to that point.
Say that again. Say that again, Zoe.
You see what I mean? Like, like, there's this, say you're an argumentative person.
Yeah.
You're unaware of it, right? You will magnetize someone that will trigger this argumentative nature in you, not for you to just continue to be argumentative, but for you to reconcile and understand your contribution to all of the arguments you find yourself participating in. Do you follow?
Yeah, I do.
But wait a minute. It's not just, you know that old saying, if you're always in an argument, you can't blame other people. At some point, you become the common denominator.
Yeah.
You can't say, I'm argumentative because she doesn't understand me. Well, if this is girlfriend number 4 that doesn't understand you, and your preferred method for dealing with being misunderstood is being argumentative, then you're the common denominator when it comes
That's
to
right.
implementation. You see? So you magnetize these experiences for you to understand that you are the common denominator. You can change this thing by understanding that. I love the way NLP puts it, neuro-linguistic programming. When you have some type of conflict with the person, they say, first, you own and be accountable for the conflict. Because whatever comes back to you, we'll call it negative feedback.
Okay.
You look at that, we'll call that as, okay, you don't have rapport with this person. So you take ownership and say, okay, I need to build my rapport, as opposed to saying, oh, this person doesn't understand me. So you take the feedback as positive, as information, and then you say, okay, because there's conflict, I have to refine my communication skills. A lot of people don't do that. They'd rather say, that person didn't understand me or I'm misunderstood. So to be able to come back into a relationship, especially in a new relationship, a dating situation, you have to have a firm knowledge of who you are and what your weaknesses are, because they will become a lighthouse for people to come into your space and challenge you to reconcile those issues.
Is it necessary for a person? Everybody's got baggage, right? I mean, you know, even if it's an overnight bag, you know.
Oh, that was good, man.
That was pretty good, wasn't it? Everybody's got baggage.
Overnight bags. I got those trunks now, you know. Those trunks, those things that you need like a whole carriage to pull them.
Right.
Real life trunks.
Right, I hear you.
I like.
But my question is, you know, some people are thinking right now, man, you know, I've been taught that I need to deal with my baggage before I get into a relationship. Otherwise, I bring my baggage with me. They bring their baggage with them. And then it all gets mixed up together and we got problems. But does somebody have to have taken care of all their baggage before they get into a relationship? I mean, is that even possible?
No. You have to accept that you're in school. And you have to be enthusiastic about being a student. You have to say, oh, this is an opportunity for me to learn more about me.
Yeah.
This is great. Oh, I wonder how my baggage and my let's not use baggage. Let's say curriculum. I wonder what class, what textbook is coming to me now.
Yeah.
I learned in my last.
Yeah, what's my next reading assignment? Right? What's my next reading assignment?
Exactly.
That's good.
Embrace that. Yeah.
That's really good. So we're making what we have considered for a long time as being something harmful to being an asset.
Oh,
yeah. You know, the way that I would describe it, Zoe, because you're so right on, is that there has to be a sense that the trouble we're having does not mean the relationship is wrong.
Right.
It's just the trouble says something's right.
Right.
You unpack it the way that you're unpacking it, and you take this attitude of, what is there to learn about myself here? Then you're doing the exact thing that we're trying to get our listeners to do in terms of emotional sobriety. For them,
you're right.
When they get upset, right, when they get frustrated in a situation, to be able to explore, what is this saying about me? And what and who I need to become to better take care of myself in this situation. Right. Instead of looking at what do I need to do to try to change the other person.
Yeah.
Right. More the way that I want them to be, so I don't get so upset with them. Right.
Well, we do that from a selfish place, and that place is I don't want to feel pain.
Yeah.
And it's the natural inclination for a human being is where there's pain, I move away from it. I try to escape it.
And if you're an addict and alcoholic, you drink or use to get away from it.
Exactly.
Right.
So, at the end of the day, there has to be a recontextualization of pain, of conflict. These are good indicators. They're telling you, you need to work in this area. That's why I'm hurting over here. So,
Right.
and pain is just another form of curriculum that tells you, hey, I need to focus in this area. If I focus in this area, I can understand why I'm feeling the way I feel. It's a beautiful system, the way that nature has it. If you feel a certain way, that's just an indicator to tell you you need to focus on that area and reconcile whatever issues that are there.
Oh, that's very good. You know, Dr. Berger and Zoe, and Dr. Berger knows this, I spend a great deal of time within the faith community. And there is an element of folks within the faith community that their philosophy is if you're experiencing pain, it's because you don't have enough faith in God. And I must say that's not the entire faith community. That's just a small portion. But it's a very dangerous concept because I believe, just like you do, that pain is an indicator. Pain is a measuring stick. Pain is something that tells us that sometimes it's telling us that we are growing because it's stretching. It's challenging us. And many times we experience pain. I think it can be a gift, don't you?
Right. It is a gift.
Yeah.
I think Dr. Berger said it wonderfully on a CD that I have of his where he talked about relationships. And I'm going to talk about you right now, Alan, as if you're not here.
All right. Yeah.
You know, he said something that just threw me for a loop. I loved hearing it. And that is, what we fail to realize is the people we love the most are the ones that hurt us the most. But ultimately, those people, in my opinion, we have the most to learn from. You see?
Wow.
Pain is part of the movement. The book The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, he has a poem in there on love, and he talks about the duality of love. Love is beautiful and it is sweet, but it also hurts. Mm-hmm. It's also sour. But that sourness has a gift within it when you embrace it. When you push it away, what happens is you never get the gift that's hidden within the pain. Yeah. It reminds me of the word experience. If you look it up from its etymological root, it means to go through.
Right.
Come out on the end.
Right.
Most people get halfway through the experience, hit that wall of pain, and turn back. Yeah. This is how it turns into baggage carried over into the next situation.
Got it.
No, I was just having this image. Hopefully this doesn't say something about where my head's at right now. It's almost like that we put ourselves into a condom and then go into the relationship to protect ourselves. Instead of having that vulnerability that you're talking about, which means, look, you're gonna be hurt, and it's not something you got to run away from, and that's that concept of developing a meaningful endurance to those feelings, where you understand that these are necessary and important things to experience and to grow from. I mean, they can become the things that nourish us in our development.
And you know, Dr. Berger, have you ever heard it said that if condoms worked, half of us wouldn't be here?
Oh my God!
I couldn't help myself. But you're right. We do the emotional condom thing. We put this wall around us, and then we march forth, and then we wonder why we're not experiencing some of the really cool things life has to offer.
Isn't that the absurd thing? Is that
Yeah.
we want to be in a relationship, and we want the intimacy, but we don't want to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, and how the hell does that work? I mean, these are some of those ridiculous things that we do to ourselves,
Yep.
and we come up with these ideas like, I'd like all the fruits of this labor, but I don't want to do the labor.
Well,
right.
I believe for most people, diet love is better than regular love. Yeah. Diet love will give you a modicum of safety.
Yeah.
But let me just tell you, love is risk. It's unfortunate. Love and risk are synonymous.
Yeah.
And if you can't live in a vulnerable space, in my opinion, you're not alive.
Yeah.
Amen to that, my friend. Absolutely, 100% agree with that.
You know, it's so funny because some people will come to therapy and they'll say, tell me, can you help me become happy? And I'll look at them and I'll say, I'm not interested in helping you become happy, but I am interested in helping you become alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it, man, because that's the whole thing that we run away from. We want, like you said, we want one side of that dialect, right, that dialectical. We want the positive side of it, but we don't understand that in order to have this, to really have a full experience in life, both sides are important. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, we are just about out of time. We could carry this on for another hour.
No, it's been one, to me, Zoe, first of all, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart to take the time to your life and your busy schedule to get on the, Step by Step Towards Emotional Sobriety show with us, because you just bring so much, and I just want to encourage all of you out there that are listening, check out Zoe. I mean, I've been on the show. It's a lot of fun. I'm, looking forward to coming back, Zoe. But you do an amazing job, and I told you, man, that you're carrying an incredible message, and I really appreciate what you're doing for our consciousness. So, keep up the great work.
Yeah, and let me just say, Zoe, kudos to you, man. Great video, great show. You touch on areas some people don't want to talk about. But you do it anyway, and that is so important. There's humor, there's seriousness there, and you're not pulling any punches. So I appreciate it when anybody does that. Well, you got an open invitation to come back on this show or any of our shows at Take 12 Radio anytime you want, my friend.
Hey, anytime you guys will have me, I'll come back, man. I really love what you guys are doing, and the pleasure has been all mine. Trust me, I appreciate it.
Absolutely, you betcha. Dr. Berger, any closing thoughts?
That the image that I hope that we're leaving you with is one of a grounded optimism. And we're not talking about this Pollyanna view of a relationship where you come together and you live happily ever after. But we are talking about a spiritual covenant, that if you connect with your partner in the way that we've been talking about, that you will create what Martin Buber called the I to thou relationship. And there is nothing more fulfilling and enriching than that kind of an experience in life. And I think we had a little bit of it tonight with the way we got to talk to each other. So,
absolutely.
So once again, thanks a million, Matt.
Zoe, don't hang up.
Hey,
Dr. Berger, you stay on the line too, and I'm going to come back to you on the phone after we close out the show. Folks, the website, Zoe's website, IamZoeWilliams.com, IamZoWilliams.com. The link is here at Take12Radio.com on Step by Step Towards Emotional Sobriety page, and we'll also have a text link on our main page at Take12Radio.com. Hey, listen, my friends. Do something now that will make the person you will be tomorrow proud to have been the person you are today. Obviously, that can be challenging, but I'll tell you what, it is well worth it. Until our next broadcast, this is the Montyman along with Zoe Williams and Dr. Alan Berger, and we're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.